Guess really let's kind of start from the beginning. Where were you before you started this coaching program?
Before I started the coaching program, I think I was very much like stuck in this cycle of trying to diet and lose weight on my own without having the real resources or knowledge to be successful at it, and thinking that my half-assed attempts were going to work each time. Definitely was not in a space where like I felt comfortable in my clothes, didn't feel comfortable in many clothes at all, didn't really like what I was seeing in the mirror, and it was more or less just slowly trying to hide myself instead of feeling confident in myself. And definitely just kind of got to that point where I was like, okay, I'm tired of feeling this way because I'm not changing anything. Nothing about my life or these feelings will change either. So it wasn't feeling super great, and it just kind of got to that point of like I'm tired of feeling sick and tired.
Yeah, what was that point of like sick and tired? What was that like final straw that made you reach out for help?
I think it was around my wedding where I kept having these thoughts of like I was trying to lose weight and do kind of like the dieting thing on my own months prior to, and nothing was working. And it just kind of got to that point of like, all right, it won't necessarily be in time for my wedding or whatever, but it just became of this feeling of like, if I keep pushing it off, I'm never going to change how I'm feeling. And I hate the way I'm feeling right now. And I knew I had it in me to achieve the goals I had with just some guidance and some knowledge around what I needed to do and how I needed to do it. But yeah, it was really like just those couple weeks before my wedding where even just at the dress fittings, like I love my dress. I still felt beautiful that day, but I'm like, you know, it was kind of kicking myself like I should have done this so many months before, but that's also not an excuse to put it off any longer.
Yeah, very true. Yeah, and those thoughts too, like were there specific things that had you specifically beating yourself up? Like, was it your appearance? Was it the way you felt? What was it that you really had struggled with?
Definitely a big portion was my like physical appearance, and um I think a lot of it too, like the way clothes fit weren't nice anymore. Like I didn't feel comfortable. I didn't want to go out because then I couldn't wear just like sweats and a big baggy t-shirt. And like I just felt like I always wanted to hide myself because I didn't like the way it looked. And then the other aspect was like feeling like I was still going to the gym, but I wasn't giving it my all. I felt tired, and then I was like taking it easy on myself, and like it just wasn't working, and I wasn't operating at my full potential.
Hmm. It's interesting you bring that up. Do you think there was something specific in the routine you were doing? Like, what was the hole or the gaps that we helped you fill? Like, what was that missing piece that you felt would have taken the results to the next level?
Um, well, in terms of training, I definitely got very bored of what I was doing. And I'm not one who likes to put together their own workouts very often. So that aspect of like, all right, Sammy's going to put this together for me. She knows what she's doing. We mixed it up and like kept it interesting throughout the different phases was a huge aspect of just keeping me mentally engaged in that physical aspect of it. But I think the biggest gap for me was the nutrition aspect. I didn't know where my like baseline was, so in terms of a deficit, I didn't know how low to go. And now that we've worked through that, I realize I was eating way too low of calories beforehand even in the deficit, like I wasn't eating enough. Um, and like being able to learn what those numbers are, and then also the recipes, like being able to create fun, delicious foods that work within my plan was very helpful too. Because it just brought that knowledge of realizing, okay, this meal that I love is, whoa, like 900 calories for one serving. Well, like, what can we change about it to make it fit better so that I can still eat it, but it's maybe a bit better of a choice?
Ooh, I would love to touch on that too. That's kind of like the juiciest part of all of this, I think. What do you think is one of the most helpful swaps that you've done? Like I know we've introduced some Greek yogurt and stuff like
Mm.
that. What's like your go-to meal?
One that I really like actually as of late has been um, making my own fry supremes. So in Canada, Taco Bell has a fry supreme where I think in the States it's chips. And I love those so much. So it's just decided one day to make one at home because we had leftover ground beef and we had frozen fries. And I made like sauce with Greek yogurt and like chopped up a bunch of vegetables and had those as my toppings, and then just had some french fries, had a bunch of ground beef, mixed it all together, and it was absolutely delicious. And that's actually one of my plans for tonight's dinner.
Yes. When you can keep the T-bell alive, you know that you're
Oh
winning.
yeah. Oh yeah. It was huge. It was like that was a game changer. I'm like, "Oh my god, I can have this at home and it's way better."
Oh yeah. Well, and then you get to like make the flavors how you want them to be exactly too.
Yeah.
It's a win-win situation.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, cool. I think we've covered a lot already, but what do you think was one of the biggest changes that you've had during your time in the program?
I mean, definitely the progress that I made. I started off at 152 and still my lowest is like 137. Working
Woohoo!
towards that 135 still. And so for me, like a lot of the times I thought, oh, I didn't even have that much weight to lose, but evidently I did. And I feel like I look amazing. And like that's the thought I had in my head of like when my ideal body or whatever that I'm seeing in the mirror is what I'm actually seeing. And I feel so good about it. And like boat days, that's no problem for me. I'll throw on my bikini and go out on the boat. And like before, probably would have had like a big cover up on and probably wouldn't have taken it off all day. So, like, just even that level of confidence switch with my physical appearance has been amazing. Feeling that I can even like lift heavier and be stronger now, like testing myself with the training has been really great. Um, before, and I'm still
I can hear you.
okay. It paused for a second, but being nervous about injury, and so I was
Mm.
like holding myself back, but being able to work up those weights slowly and see like, okay, you can do this heavy, you are that strong, it's okay, has been a huge help with that mental block. Um, so that was another big change of like just being able to work through my own self holding me back. Um, and the other thing that I really, really, really enjoyed and appreciated is like not, it wasn't a quick fix. Nothing about this program was a quick fix, which I, as I think just a personality trait, tend to lean towards those. But I thoroughly enjoyed this process. And what I liked about it was like when I ran into issues or needed more resources, like trying to get my fiber up, you didn't just say, okay, well, take this flaxseed supplement with a smoothie every day and like that'll be fine. It's not that quick fix. It was like, okay, well, like here are a ton of foods that are high in fiber that you can incorporate throughout your daily meals, throughout your week. And that's like, this is a more, not natural, but like more realistic way of getting your fiber up. incorporating these foods in your meals instead of like forcing you to have a smoothie and have flax seeds in it every single day. So I'm like, what if I don't want one? But that's been a huge thing. Like, I'm very conscious now of, okay, where's my fiber at for the day? What are some things that I can add to my meals to help get me up to that 25 to 30 gram mark that I should be hitting for the day? And that has been a huge change. So it's helped with my body, and then like the bloating and inflammation in my body I find has gone down. I'm not nearly as bloated as I used to be either, which obviously helps aesthetically. It looks better with the flat tummy.
I'm sure it feels a lot better
It
too.
definitely does. Oh yeah.
Good. Good. Yeah, I want to touch on something you had spoken about earlier. And we worked a lot on this when you were in the gym because you were somebody who you came in like pretty much knew how to do almost everything. It was just some little tweaks. Curious what your biggest takeaways were from the training side of things, what you learned about exercise in and of itself.
The Probably the biggest thing was you had explained one day that like where we're really growing the muscles is in that extension and not necessarily like the lifting or like the upward movement of lifting the weight, which I was like, whoa, that had no idea. So that made me focus a lot more on like, okay, am I getting that like full extension in whatever exercise it is I'm doing? Like, am I getting that full stretch, and is it in a controlled movement? That was the other thing that worked on largely, was like any type of downward movement or retraction was like slow and controlled and not just like dropping down and having to force my body weight back up after all of that. For training, I think those two things were like the biggest, and then like putting them together has helped tremendously of just keeping control, my mind to muscle connection, and I'm like actually focused on what I'm doing and not just moving for the hell of it.
Yes, I think you just touched on something that is like the biggest deal. It's not just doing the motion or doing this the right amount of sets and reps. It's that mind to muscle connection and really focusing on utilizing the muscle in the right way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, girl, you mastered that too. And I am curious, since we worked a lot through some RDL variations and experienced some back pain along the way, but ended up figuring it out.
Mm-hmm.
What is your advice to the girlies out there who are doing RDLs with back pain? What would you tell them to watch out for or change?
Um, First thing I always check is that like my core is actually engaged and it stays engaged the whole time. So like tucking my pelvis in, having that core engagement, and not like, you want to breathe, but you don't want to just let your tummy go loose because then your back's taking a lot of that weight on. Also, do it with a weight that you can functionally do. You don't necessarily always have to lift the heaviest, but you want the most out of your reps. And take it slow, like making sure that you're going slow on the way down, keeping everything tight to the body. But for me, with the back pain that I had, it was all like just that lack of core and being able to mentally keep that tight and focused the whole time has helped tremendously, and virtually no back pain or aching with RDLs anymore.
Yay. Oh, I love to hear that. Was there a core exercise in particular that you felt really helped you learn how to brace and control your core?
I really enjoy dead bugs. Um, and then even those like either leg lifts or hollow holds, and making sure that my back is pressed against the floor as best as possible. That really helped, because it to me felt like the same kind of action, but I'm just standing instead with the RDLs.
Yeah.
So I found
Yeah.
those ones helped a lot.
Good. That's good to know too. Everybody likes to poop on the dead bugs because
Love them.
Oh, but they're so good.
And there's different ways you can make it fun. Like sometimes I'll add like a Bosu ball and I gotta hold it with my arms and legs, and like it's more than, again, just going through the motions. I have to focus on it.
Yeah, that is a good variation. And that's the thing too with all of these movements. You can always make it more or less difficult
Mm-hmm.
just by little tweaks.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yay. Okay. Well, I'm curious too, what do you think, let me rephrase. Do you think that you will be continuing on with all of the habits we've built inside of this program now that you are leaving the program?
Absolutely. Because I didn't come into it to just do this stuff for 3-4 months and then not do it anymore. Like personally, with my mindset, I still have a 12,000 step goal. Do I hit it every single day? Maybe not, but it is still my goal, and I incorporate movement so I can reach it almost every single day. Um,
Good.
and then same thing, like I still will work out 4 to 5 times a week, making sure I go to the gym. I do have a workout plan. And then for myself, in terms of like, I do still want to reach that 135 goal. So I got 2 pounds to go.
So close.
We're very close, and it's still moving in the right direction. So that's good. But yeah, absolutely have intended to continue with these habits, and I've made sure to get all the other necessary apps to keep on my phone. So I have a daily weigh in app, and like I have a habit tracking app where I can track my steps and I can track my water intake, and I have my macro tracking app, and I've set it to like the same type of numbers to work with. So I'm still keeping on track with that. Um, I have, yeah, fully intended to continue with that, and then probably take a little bit of a break once I hit that 135 and just go back to a maintenance area to give my body a little bit of a break. And then probably do a mini deficit again before my honeymoon so that I can look snatched.
Wait, have you made official plans?
Yes, we go to Mexico at the end of November.
Oh my gosh, how fun. What part of
Yeah,
Mexico?
Cancun.
Oh,
Yeah.
girl. Are you doing a resort?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
All
of course you
inclusive.
are. And you know how to navigate that.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh, actually, that's a really good point too. Like, what do you think you learned about dining out and how to navigate food that you don't make?
It was definitely a challenge. But ultimately, like, you have to be up for the challenge. It's not something that I was willing to let myself be derailed from. I still wanted to enjoy these outings and these social aspects of life. Um, So there were just sometimes, if I could, absolutely pre-plan as much as possible and get that in your logs before you even start your day, so that if you already know you're going out for dinner, you know what you want, it's in there, you can work the rest of your day around it. Um, but of course, there's some scenarios where you can't pre-plan. You don't know where you're going until you're there and whatnot. And it still is just about making mindful choices. Still foods that you think are delicious and do want to eat, but trying to think of, okay, what meal might have the highest amount of protein? Like, where can I get the macros that I need in the best out of, any of these meals? Even like homemade meals that I didn't make, still scanning salad bar or like salad dressing cubes, and like one thing that was helpful was like learning how to kind of eyeball and measure things, like the hand palm kind of, okay, this is this much of chicken, and being able to eyeball it a little bit if you don't have a scale, ultimately was helpful. But I think for my personal mindset, it was to do my best, track it as best as I could, get all the information as best I could, but not like dwell on maybe it not being the perfect meal for that day, not letting it derail me. If I can alter the rest of my week, maybe if I went over that meal out, I eat a little bit less the next day, and it all evens out for the rest of the week. So just the biggest thing was like don't let this ruin everything that you're doing. Like, it's okay. You can adjust in various amounts of ways to make it work.
Oh yeah, I think that mindset is a lot of what helped you be successful because you rarely derailed, if we're honest. But
Mm.
even when those days did
Yeah.
happen, it was never like a, oh my gosh, I'm a failure. You were always very able to see that light at the end of the tunnel and know that you were still making progress.
Mm-hmm.
Was there anything you would say to yourself when those times happened that helped you get through that little moment of disappointment?
Um, Ultimately, it was kind of just breaking it down to being like, this is one meal. This one meal isn't going to change the last 2 months of effort that you put in. The scale goes up because you have more food in your belly. Okay, it's not the end of the world. Like, the next day, you get right back to your normal routine and you'll go right back down. Um, like, a lot of it was just like that kind of, if this is one moment in time out of all of this time and effort you've put in, it doesn't erase all of that. And even when I was in Nashville on that bachelorette trip, I tried tracking as best as I could, but ultimately it was like restaurants didn't have this information, and like I have no idea what the ingredients in this meal actually are. But it was being kind of mindful of like, okay, well, this meal is giant. Maybe I eat half now and then like I can have half for lunch later. I don't have to eat the whole thing right now and overdo it. So just being moderate with my meals helped too, not overeating or going crazy. Um, and when I think back to even just that weekend or like 4 or 5 days gone, absolutely nothing changed. The scale continued to stay the same once I got back home and continued weighing in. My measurements stayed the same and continued to drop after I got back. So I know at that moment we talked a lot about like, let's figure out how like off track really is. And nothing happened. It was like 4 days of eating out and dancing all night, and ultimately like nothing changed, and I was able to just go back to my normal routine once I got home and continue.
Ugh, how did it feel to know that even on this weight loss journey, you were still able to go to the bachelorette trip, to go on trips and go out to eat?
It was so nice because I do think sometimes there's a bit of a stigma of like, if you're taking pictures and tracking stuff and people are like, why can't you just for once eat the meal without having to do that? And I definitely had friends who had that kind of perspective, but obviously with my mindset I'm like, well, if I do that all the time, then what's the point? I'm not going to reach these goals. But being able to be gone for 4 or 5 days, didn't do a formal workout. Again, it was just dancing all night was my workout every night. And same thing, I applied that mindset of like, okay, this giant chicken sandwich, I'm going to get a lot of protein out of that. That might be good. And I'll get a salad instead of fries. Making those mindful choices for myself, listening to my cues. Just because other people were drinking all weekend, I didn't feel the need to. I would have a drink or two maybe with a meal, maybe. But like, just staying true to yourself and knowing what your goals are and being able to be like, no, I'm making this decision for me so that I know and I feel good about what I'm doing and I'm not succumbing to any type of pressure from outside people. Really helped. I felt so good being able to, yeah, go to Nashville and eat meals and have a couple of drinks and just enjoy my time. And I wasn't like, oh my god, when am I going to weigh in next, or when am I going to get the workout in next? I was like, this is where I'm at right now, and I gotta take it with stride and just enjoy where I'm at right now, because I know as soon as I get home I'll get back to all that normal stuff.
You got to soak in the fun.
Yeah, and I think that was a huge part. Like, again, I really didn't drink much, which I think helped me ultimately. But that's not to say I didn't enjoy a cocktail here or there with some meals, and
Hmm.
still ate Raising Cane's chicken probably 2 or 3 times throughout those 4 days. It was delicious, and I have no regrets about it. And ultimately, yeah, I'm like, having that chicken that one day out with a bunch of girls did not change anything about my progress here and now.
And I'm sure instead you have the memory of the fun you had with
Absolutely.
your girls.
Oh, 100%. Oh,
Good.
yeah.
Well, and you weren't really struggling too hard with that FOMO or anxiety that I know a lot of women feel, like taking the scale out to measure things in public places or even at a friend's house, or feeling like they're missing out. So I'm curious, what would you say to somebody who's feeling that anxiety or that FOMO in order to work past that, to put their own goals ahead of that?
I mean, it's tough. Like, it's something you definitely have to like mentally work through. But I did kind of experience a lot of it with my one friend who, her response consistently was like, "Oh, but you can just like let loose this one time and just, have the drink or have the meal, whatever." But ultimately, like, you don't want to be removing yourself from social situations because you feel you can't either control what you're going to eat or whatnot. Like, you're not always going to have control. And I think that is a big aspect of it too, is, oh, I don't know what I'm going to eat, so I just won't go because at home I know I'll eat. And that is always something that's in the back of the mind, but it's a mental thing that you work through, and having the willpower to say no thanks. Like, I would still go out to parties and friends' houses. Do you want a drink? No thanks, I'm good. I got my water. And like, it's not changing how much fun I'm having with my friends. And same thing with the meal aspect of it. Like, you're not going to, it's not sustainable if you don't go out and enjoy the things and make it work in this new lifestyle that you're creating. It won't last because you can't hide away forever.
Yeah, and you keep mentioning like it's not a quick fix. It truly is
No,
a lifestyle change.
absolutely.
Were there things that you changed within your own lifestyle in order to maintain the success of the weight loss?
Um, absolutely. I think like making a schedule for myself really helped. Like, I'm a very much a routine person, so as soon as I was done work, I would go to the gym. Um, and then also just adding things to my life. Like, I have a walking pad under my desk for work. Wasn't really using it a whole bunch, but now it's like, okay, at least 1 to 2 hours a day, I'm walking on that while I'm working so that I can get my steps in and I'm moving my body throughout the day so I don't have to cram everything in at night. That's been a huge help, is just pacing whatever my habits are, pacing them out throughout the day so it's a lot easier to achieve them in little chunks rather than like, yeah, having to chug a gallon of water at night because I didn't hit my water goal or something like that. So just embedding these habits that I want to keep alive into my daily routine has really helped. Um, and then same thing kind of like with nutrition, we have some new staples of things that I'm constantly buying from the grocery store. Like, um I'm constantly buying sweet potatoes now. Like, those are my go-tos because they're versatile and I love them and I can eat them with whatever. And like,
Hmm.
having higher quality proteins, like always having chicken, ground beef, and we really like shrimp, always having those types of things on hand so that we can like make easy, quick recipes. I'm not a huge meal prep, like full meal prep kind of girl, but I'm like the bits and pieces meal prep kind of person. So it's like, if I have all these things on hand and like relatively easily accessible, then I'm good. Like, I know what recipes I can make, and I know what food I can put together to have these meals. So just incorporating, yeah, all of these things just into the regular life. You do it long enough, it just becomes regular life.
Hmm. You mentioned something about the grocery store, and I'm wondering, is there a change that you've made in how you previously navigated grocery shopping to how you do it now?
Um, a little bit. I mean, for us, one big thing, and it actually didn't start with this program, but we've stopped physically going to Costco. We Instacart. So that's been a huge help to stick to the list of things that we need, and things that we will eat, and not getting all of the random stuff when you go up and down the aisles and you're like, ooh, these cookies are on sale or something like that. So just that actually has helped a lot. But um, in terms of grocery shopping, I'm someone who sticks to the list quite well. So that hasn't been too much of an issue. But I think just better prepping my list. So even when things are kind of low but not quite empty yet, well, I'm gonna go to the grocery store. I'll buy more so that I don't have this weird window of laziness of like, oh, I can't eat that because I don't have any, and I'm too lazy to go to the store or whatever it is. Um,
Yep.
but yeah, it's just having new staples in kind of our list that we wouldn't often or regularly buy before. That's been really helpful. It just makes eating easier.
Hmm. Good. I'm really glad to hear that. Now, you and I worked together. You signed up for a 3 month program. And then after that 3 months ended, we had you sort of enrolled in this month to month option. We
Mm-hmm.
haven't even seen really that first full month of the month to month. But what was it that made you say, first of all, after the first 3 months, I'm enjoying this, I want to continue this, but I need a little less accountability?
Mm-hmm. I think after those first 3 months, I definitely saw like a ton of progress, which was really encouraging. And I knew that I wanted more, but it just, I wasn't at that point yet of just taking the training wheels entirely off and going off on my own. I still enjoyed having like those check-ins, with the forms, and then being able to see my progress and still have you as a resource. Like, I still asked questions throughout that last month, and being able to reach out to you and be like, hey, whatever, if it's a meal question, or like, should I weigh things raw or cooked, and like, just, I still felt like, okay, I have questions, and I still want a little bit of accountability, because I don't think at that 3 months, I don't know if I had quite reached the original goal weight yet. So that might have also been a factor of just like, I really want to get to that. I think it was 140, was the original, like the first goal weight we had put in. Um, so I really just wanted to reach that together, because then I think that also gave me more confidence of like, okay, yeah, like, you can do this. You have the resources now. Um, and just the same type of thing, like, you were still there to review stuff and like bring things up if you had concerns or questions, and like just continue to help steer me on the right path.
Hmm. I'm really glad to hear that. And what was it too that you previously mentioned you weren't ready to take those training wheels off? When did it hit you that you realized, okay, I can do this on my own?
I think, honestly, with this like month to month, this last month that we've been working together, not having those weekly check-ins made me feel more independent. And like, again, I still knew you were there if I had questions or I did need you, but having that level of like accountability kind of pulled back a bit more onto just myself, and less onto, okay, I know she's going to talk to me this week, so I, better have my shit together. It's more of like, okay, we're doing this for you now. Not that we never weren't, but um, yeah, like, she's not going to be checking up on you every week. So like, this accountability is shifted to you now, and then it was kind of became like, okay, I I'm doing the thing. Like I'm doing this. These protocols, they're still working. The scale is going down. I'm seeing more definition and I'm still lifting heavy. Like, okay, I think I can, yeah, continue this. And I have the resources. I have the knowledge now that I didn't have before. So if I take this and I work on it myself and continue to push myself like I have been, I will still be successful.
Yes. Oh, I'm so glad to hear that.
Yeah.
What do you think made you more ready for that accountability now versus even 2 months ago?
Um, I think having like worked through a lot of different social aspects, like I think beforehand, before starting this program, that was always something that was tricky for me is like if I don't have control of the meal that's being cooked or what I'm eating, um, major struggles and kind of would throw me right off. But knowing now that I have that better understanding and like having you alongside me while working through all of those kind of not even like hiccups, but it was just like I'm panicking. Like I don't know what to do. What should I do? How do I track this? Like I don't know what is made in this. And you were there to be like, okay, well, like in the picture, like let's see what was this. Let's break it down. Google it and presented really easy solutions to these crazy problems that I thought I had. That was a huge thing of like, okay, I feel like now we've navigated these humps together, these whatever roadblocks, um, and I know how to handle these situations. And like again, the day to day, normal, routine stuff, like that's the easy part of it because it's structured and you know what you're doing. But you can't, like life just doesn't always work that way. So once I figured out, okay, I know how to handle these one-off situations or these trip situations where I don't have all of the control, I know what decisions to make for myself and my goals and how to stick to them properly. um, that was kind of, yeah, that turning point of like, okay, I think I got it now, and I think I can actually do this on my own successfully at this point, or like try it out and see.
Good. Yeah, I think a lot of what you're referring to is just like you're building trust within yourself. You're
Mm-hmm.
building the efficacy to know that if shit hits the fan, you know what to do,
Yeah.
which is so valuable. And it's nice to have those training wheels on when you need them to build
Mm-hmm.
the skill. And now you've built this repertoire of various skills. So now you know how to make this sustainable
Yeah.
and last and continue the journey. Your journey's just beginning, really.
Oh yeah. It's been years in the making, but it's a journey. Like that's the whole point of it. It's never going to end. And I'm sure there I'll have new goals in the future to work towards, and things will change in life. But for right now, like this was probably the best thing that I could have done for myself is enrolling in this. These are like I've worked with coaches in the past, and this is the most sustainable results that I've seen thus far.
Well, thank you. I'm very, very happy to hear that. Yay,
Absolutely.
that makes me feel so good. Heck yeah, girl. I'm curious too, like, if somebody was on the fence about joining this program, what would you say to them?
I mean, there's always a lot of factors as to what they're on, like the reasons they're on the fence. So if it's financial, you've got options to work with. And a lot of the times it is an investment. Your health, your happiness, your mental happiness, it's an investment. So being able to budget like I did, I had a wedding coming up and I still jumped in on this because I was like, I know I need it. I'm Canadian and I still jumped in on this because I knew I really felt that it was going to be worth it, and ultimately I was right. Um, so if I know financial is always a big aspect for a lot of people, but ultimately, like, yeah, it's going to be investment no matter what. If you really want things to change, then you will take that investment. If it's oh, I'll wait for after my wedding, like I could have done, or I'll wait for next spring so I look good for summer, whatever the waiting reason is, you'll just be waiting forever. So and nothing's going to change. So for me, the saying that really helped me a lot was nothing changes if nothing changes. So if you don't like the way you're feeling, or you don't like the way you look, or you don't like the way your mentality is, it's going to stay that way unless you make some active changes in your life. So for me personally, I knew that body weight I wanted gone, and I wanted to feel more confident. What I was doing wasn't working. I gave it a shot, wasn't working, and I knew it wasn't working. And so that's just kind of it. Like you have to want to change bad enough. And I think a lot of times, like, again, I've worked with other coaches in the past, it's a journey, and it's not a quick fix. It's a lot of work, but in the end, it's so worth it because you feel so good about yourself physically and mentally. But like, I personally feel good about the things I do on a daily basis. I feel great about being able to hit my step goal, and I feel great about making meals that are healthy and satisfying, and I get to eat these things and still feel great. um, so it's personally just, you got to make the changes that you want to see in your life. And so if you don't, then you won't see them, and that's a different reality to deal with.
Yeah, you hit it on the head. You have to want to change. And like you said, it's not a walk in the park. It's easy. Wait. It's not a walk in the park. It's easy to look at something like this and say, "Oh, it's a lot of work. It's going to take so much time. I don't know that I want to put the work into that." But ultimately, like you've said, if you don't want it bad enough, then that's okay with you.
Mm-hmm.
But if you are really that uncomfortable, you are going to make that
Yeah.
change. And it is a journey.
Yeah. And like, it's a lot of work to make the change, but ultimately I think it's a lot of work to stay the same too. Cuz then you're still constantly feeling the way you're feeling, which you want to ultimately change. So, like I said, I'm still kind of kicking myself in the butt. It's like I should have did this 3 4 months before I did. Whatever, I still ended up doing it, and I'm glad I did, and I'm thankful that I did, and I'm thankful I finally just took the step, put the ego aside. What I was doing on my own wasn't working, and I needed assistance, and I got the assistance, and now I use those resources to go back to doing things on my own successfully.
Yes. Well, and you said there was like that 3 to 4 months where you hadn't done it and you're kicking yourself over it. And that's reasonable, but it's also, when people say like, let me just wait another 3 months when things are less busy or when things slow
Never
down.
less busy. it
you
it
know,
never changes. Like, I think about that too, the timing of it. If I were to have done it, let's say 3 4 months before I actually did, well, that was still a busy time in my life. We just bought a house, we just moved to a new town. So what's to say that that time was too busy, but the 2 weeks before my wedding wasn't too busy for me to start this? Like, it doesn't take much to actually start doing it. It really doesn't. It's a longer process. It takes time and effort every day. But I don't know, when I look at the little graph and I see what my weight was at the beginning of this and what it is now, and I'm like, I did that in like 4 months. That's crazy. Without,
yeah.
like, it is effort, but at the same time, like, it wasn't far off from what I was already doing. I had you to help me do it the right way. Like I was still going to the gym and I was still trying to eat right, but I don't know if it was just the knowledge around like, okay, this type of training will help, or these foods will help better than the foods you're choosing to eat. Um, it's those little swaps, like just all the tiny little things add up to the bigger differences, and it's always worth it in the end.
Yes. And ultimately, the time's going to pass anyway. So you may as
Exactly.
well be 2 weeks ahead.
Yes. Exactly. Make use of it, because yeah,
Yes.
you're it's gonna go by anyways. So absolutely.
Uh huh. Yeah, I think I'm wanting to know in your experience too, just be as candid as possible with this too. Was there anything within the program structure or anything that you felt could be improved surrounding onboarding, communication, anything that I could use to make the experience better for everyone else?
I think like Trainerize is a really great app. I did really like using it because it has kind of everything in there. Um, I liked being able to kind of see everyone like in that group chat, like everybody else hitting their goals and like seeing other people come onto the group, which was really great and like motivating to see like, okay, Julie hit her nutrition goal yesterday, like yay for Julie, and like I want people to feel that way about me when my name pops up. So I did enjoy that. The one thing I think, which maybe you might just be at the point of like needing a virtual assistant or something, because you seem very busy, uh, which is a good thing, like for you and your business, obviously. But response times, sometimes it depends on the question. Obviously, like some, it's totally reasonable to have like a 24, 48-hour response window. But then there's others that I'm like, oh, shoot, like I hope she sees this today and like can get back to me today. Ultimately, nothing was like end of the world, obviously, but that I think would be an area for improvement, is just having like that shorter window of response times. Um, but like I said, I used to be a virtual assistant for fitness coaches, so they're valuable, and you might just be at that point of needing to level up and have somebody else do all like the random admin stuff.
I'm very glad you said that. I am actually in the process of onboarding the new assistant.
There you go.
So,
Perfect.
advice taken.
That's
And I
awesome.
know, just for clarity of whoever may be watching this later too, like we've had this conversation before, so that is actually what sparked. Oh, maybe I do need
Perfect.
an assistant.
No, that's
So thank
awesome.
you. And really thank you, because that's improving the experience for everyone else, and I'm sure too for me down the line as well, which
Absolutely.
means more time on coaching, which is awesome.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, in 10 seconds or less, describe the biggest wins you experienced in this program. No pressure.
It would be getting my confidence back. Like, hands down, I feel good about myself physically, emotionally, mentally. I'm doing things every day that make me happy. I feel like I look great, but again, that's just a superficial aesthetic. It's the feeling I have inside. I'm confident, I'm comfortable, and I love feeling that way. And I hadn't for a long
Yay!
time.
Yeah, I'm so glad to hear that. And it sounds like too, it's not just like the physical confidence, but that built of trust that you've
Mm-hmm.
built within yourself, the efficacy you now have. It seems like confidence is not just physical, but internal as well.
Absolutely. Oh, yeah. The mental aspect of like being able to navigate situations that would have spooked me before, I feel comfortable now. I'm like, I know that this curveball is going to be thrown at me and I'm going to take it in stride.
Heck yes. Oh
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's the best possible thing I could have heard. So excellent.
Yeah.
Well, good. Is there anything else you want to share with the audience, with myself at all?
I just wanted to thank you for obviously all of the support that you've given me over the last 4 months. It's been incredible to learn all of these different things from you when it comes to nutrition and training that I didn't know before. Um, and also, I think those weekly video check-ins are so, so important. And I'm so grateful that we had that time, and like that you as a coach are able to take that time and put into your clients, because I've had coaches in the past where check-ins were just, I fill out the form and then they just text me some stuff, and I'm like, that it doesn't feel like a check-in. But with you, like I felt like, okay, we have this time blocked off where I can say stuff that just comes to my mind, and we can talk through it, and you ask questions, you're paying attention. So I thought that that was super, super valuable for me in my journey, and probably like one of the biggest factors um, as like why I was successful, because I just felt like, okay, I really do have her attention, and she is focused on helping me, and you're invested just the way as I am invested. And so I really, really appreciated those.
Good. That's good to know too. Yeah, and I think too that's part of what builds that accountability in the that month to month version, because
Mm-hmm.
without that now you're, I mean, we did it on a monthly basis, but now you're forced to work through those problems a little bit more on your own.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's
Good. Well, I'm glad, because then that prepares you for the wild, so to say.
exactly. Yeah. No, it's true. Yeah. Of
Yes. Well, Marissa, thank you so much, and thank you for taking the time to do this.
course.
I don't know that we've even talked about this before, but you were my very first international client, so I'm very grateful. And it's been a fun journey. It's been so fun to watch you make this progress, and I couldn't be prouder of all the
Thank
success
you.
you've had. So thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, girl. It's been a pleasure. Okay, I'm gonna stop this recording.